The sun dipped low behind the red canyons of Arizona Territory, painting the sky in bands of amber and crimson. Sheriff Ethan McGraw adjusted his worn hat as the stagecoach rolled into Dusty Creek. He wasn't expecting visitors. The next mail run wasn't due until Friday. But when the driver hopped down and opened the door, a small figure emerged. A girl, no older than 10. Her eyes wide and scared, clutching a tattered rag doll. "Ain't no one came to claim her," the driver said, scratching his beard. "Said her name's Clara. Came all the way from St. Louis." Ethan frowned, his weathered face creasing. "Who sent her?" he asked, but the driver only shrugged. "Paperwork said her aunt was here and name's gone smudged." The sheriff's heart sank. The town was small. He knew every soul, and none fit that description. Clara looked lost, her boots too big, her face smudged with dirt from the long journey. Ethan knelt down. "You hungry, little one?" She nodded slowly, her lips trembling. "Then let's get you fed," he said gently, leading her toward the sheriff's office, where the smell of fresh cornbread drifted from the stove. The sheriff's office wasn't much. A desk, 2 cells, and a cot in the back where Ethan sometimes slept. His late wife, Mary, had passed 3 winters ago, leaving him with a heart that never fully healed. He poured Clara a tin cup of milk and handed her a slice of cornbread. She ate quietly, eyes darting around the room like a frightened bird. "You remember your aunt's name?" he asked softly. "No, sir," she whispered. "Mama said she'd meet me when I got here, but she didn't." The words broke something inside him, a memory of loss too close to home. Ethan leaned back, watching the fire flicker in the hearth. "You can stay here tonight," he said finally. "We'll figure it out come morning." She hesitated, then nodded. He laid a blanket on the cot and fetched some water from the barrel. As the night deepened, the wind howled through the streets of Dusty Creek. Clara stirred in her sleep, mumbling something about her mother. Ethan sat by the fire, his mind heavy with questions. Who would send a child alone across the plains? And why had no one written ahead? He stared into the flames, feeling the ache of loneliness rise again. Morning brought dust, sunlight, and the clatter of hooves. Ethan saddled his horse Scout, planning to ask around town. He left Clara with Mrs. Waverly, the kind widow who ran the bakery. "Poor lamb," she said, brushing Clara's hair. "I'll keep her safe." Ethan rode through town, stopping at the post office, the telegraph shack, and the hotel. But no one had heard of a missing aunt or a family expecting a child. By noon he returned empty-handed, his jaw tight. Clara waited on the porch, holding a small flower she'd picked. "Did you find her?" she asked. He shook his head slowly. Days turned into weeks, and still no one came. Clara began to smile again, helping Mrs. Waverly knead dough and sweeping the sheriff's office. Ethan found himself looking forward to her chatter, her laughter echoing through the dusty room. It was as if life had tiptoed back in through the door Mary had closed behind her, yet part of him remained cautious. A sheriff couldn't let emotion cloud his judgment. Still, when Clara ran up one evening with a bouquet of wildflowers, "For your desk, Sheriff," he couldn't help but grin. "Thank you, darling," he said, his voice thick with warmth. Trouble came in the form of a telegram. It was addressed to the sheriff from the St. Louis orphanage. Child Clara Whitmore missing during transfer. Believed abducted or lost en route. Reward for safe return. Ethan's stomach turned. He looked at Clara playing outside, chasing butterflies, her laughter pure and free. She wasn't a runaway, she was lost. The thought of sending her back to a cold institution made his chest ache. He folded the telegram carefully and placed it in his desk drawer. For now, he told himself, she was safe. He'd decide what to do later. That night, thunder rolled across the plains. Clara woke crying from a nightmare, calling for her mother. Ethan rushed in, kneeling beside her. "It's all right, sweetheart," he whispered, wrapping her in a blanket. She clung to him, sobbing. She said she'd come back for me. But she didn't. Ethan's heart broke. He remembered holding his dying wife in the same arms, promising he'd keep going. "You're not alone anymore," he said softly. "You've got me now." She looked up at him through tears. "Promise?" "Promise," he said. And for the first time in years, he meant it. Word spread that the sheriff had taken in a stray. Some folks approved, others whispered. "A lawman shouldn't be raising no orphan," muttered the barber. But Ethan ignored the talk. He taught Clara how to ride, how to read, even how to shoot tin cans off a fence post. She had a spark, brave and wild, just like Mary had been. The town slowly warmed to her. Mrs. Waverly called her our little sunshine. When Christmas came, Ethan carved her a small wooden horse and placed it by her bed. She hugged him tight. "You're the best papa ever," she whispered. Months passed peacefully until one spring afternoon, a stranger rode into town, a man in a dark coat, eyes cold as stone. "Sheriff McGraw," he said. "I'm here for the girl." Ethan's hand drifted to his revolver. "You got proof of that?" The man tossed a paper on the desk, a seal from the orphanage. "She's property of the state. Been looking for her for months." Ethan's pulse quickened. Clara stood behind him, trembling. "You can't take her," she cried. The man sneered. "She ain't yours." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Maybe not by blood," he said, "but she's under my protection." That night, the stranger disappeared from his rented room. And so did Clara. Panic gripped Ethan like a vice. He rode out before dawn, tracking hoof prints through the desert brush. Hours later, he found the stranger's horse tied near the canyon's edge, and Clara's rag doll lying in the dirt. His heart thundered. He followed the trail down into a gulch where the man held Clara at gunpoint. "Step closer, Sheriff, and she's done," the man barked. "You ain't taking her," Ethan growled. A shot rang out. Dust exploded near his boots. He fired back, fast and sure. The stranger's bullet grazed Ethan's shoulder, but his aim was true. The man dropped to the ground, his gun clattering beside him. Clara screamed and ran to Ethan's arms. "You're hurt," she sobbed. He smiled weakly. "Just a scratch, sweetheart." They rode back to town under a blood-red sunset, her tiny hands gripping his waist. When they arrived, Mrs. Waverly ran out, tears streaming. The whole town gathered, silent as Ethan dismounted. "Ain't nobody taking this child again," he declared. For once, even the gossipers had nothing to say. Dusty Creek had seen courage and love that day. Ethan sent word to the orphanage, explaining everything. Weeks later, a letter arrived. "In light of your service and the child's safety, custody granted to Sheriff Ethan McGraw." He read it twice, barely believing it. Clara danced around the room when he told her. "I get to stay?" she cried. He nodded, smiling through tears. "Forever if you'll have me." She hugged him tight, her little arms fierce. The town threw a small celebration at the saloon, root beer and pie for everyone. For the first time since Mary's death, Ethan laughed, deep, genuine, and alive. Years rolled on. Clara grew strong, smart, and kind. She helped at the schoolhouse, learned to shoot straighter than most men in town, and rode beside Ethan on patrols. Folks stopped calling her the orphan girl and started calling her the sheriff's daughter. Dusty Creek changed too. The wind seemed softer, the sunsets brighter. Ethan often sat on the porch watching her braid her hair in the fading light, proud beyond words. "Your mama would have liked you," he'd say sometimes. Clara would smile and answer, "I think she sent you to me." Maybe, Ethan thought. She was right. When the sheriff grew old, Clara took over his duties, the first woman in the territory to wear a badge. She kept peace with the same quiet strength he'd taught her. On his last day, Ethan sat beneath the oak tree outside town, the one where Clara had once played. "You gave me a reason to stay, little one," he whispered. She knelt beside him, tears falling on his weathered hand. "And you gave me a home, Pa." The wind carried their words across the plains. In the wild heart of the West, two lost souls had found each other and became family.